welcome to day 3. Today I was figuring we're going to kind of work on a little bit of Cuban motion. Some of my students, a lot of my students that have been teaching for a while, we've worked on this, but there's always more that we can add to it, and anybody new who I haven't worked with it on yet, this is going to be a great opportunity for you to start learning. So when we think of Cuban motion in dancing, a lot of times we think of all the hip action, and the hips do move, but that's not where our primary source comes from. That's just kind of a secondary thing. So we always want to start with Cuban motion going all the way down to the lowest point. So that's going to be our feet. So when we do this, we want to make sure that we have our toes pointed out. It's always good to start with your heels pressed together, but then point your toes out anywhere from, I recommend about 30 degrees. Some people go even wider than that, so it's all personal preference. But we definitely want our toes pointed out at least a little bit. Then going up from there, the primary source of what causes everything is actually going to be in our knees. In Cuban motion, we always have either 2 straight knees or 1 knee bent, 1 knee straight. We never have 2 knees bent at the same time. Now there are other different types of Latin dances have different types of variation of Cuban motion. So something like the bachata has 2 bent knees at all times, but that's not Cuban motion. That's going to be a street style hip action. And then our international style Latin dances have international style Latin motion. So we're just going to work on American style Cuban motion because it's going to be really nice and it's relatively easy. It gives us a little bit more of a basis to start off with, but it's also not going to be the most complex thing. Latin motion is really rather tricky because it actually goes opposite from the way our body would automatically naturally move. Cuban motion is just, we actually technically use Cuban motion essentially when climbing stairs. So we use that movement in our lower body all the time. So we move up from our feet to our knees, and the principle being when I take a step, I land onto a bent knee, almost as if I'm kind of falling onto it and catching myself. Then before I take my next step, I'm going to straighten that knee, and in that process, my knees kind of come straight together, and then I bend the next knee, and then I land onto that knee as well. And then I just kind of repeat over and over. I straighten, bend, land. Straighten, bend, and land. So we're going to try this first going forward and backwards, and then we're going to try it side to side, and it's all going to be the same action. So starting with the right, I'm going to bend my right knee. I go forward, I straighten, I bend, and then I go forward on my left. Straighten and bend, forward on my right, straighten, bend my left, and forward. Straighten, bend my right, and forward. Straighten, bend my left, and forward. And then same thing is going to be done going backwards. Starting with my right again, I'm going to bend my knee, I'm going to go back, then I'm going to straighten, bend my left, and go back. Straighten, bend, and back. Straighten, bend, and back. Straighten, bend, and back. Straighten, bend, and back. Going backwards is going to be a lot more difficult. So just keep working at it. For me, the hardest thing going backwards is I've actually, there's a more advanced timing that we're going to get to a little bit later in the end of this video. and it's really, really difficult for me to now go backwards without falling into that delayed timing. So that's something that would be really good for me to work on. For some of you, it might just be enough to have any kind of hip action going as you're going backwards anyway. So then we're also going to do our Cuban motion while going to the side. Same principle, starting with my right. I'm going to bend my knee. I'm going to step. I'm going to straighten, bend, and come together. And then I straighten, bend, and out to the side. Straighten, bend, come together, and step. Switch, side. Straighten, bend, together, and side. Straighten, bend, and together, and so on. Going to the left, same thing. Bend my left, side, straighten, bend, and together. I switch, side, and together. Bend my left, straighten, bend my right, left, and right. This is going to be used in all four directions quite often. In really any of our Latin style dances, we can use either Cuban motion or at least a variation of it once we get beyond this stage, and we can make variety from it. So when we're doing our, say we do a rumba box, just to make it easier, this time we're going to start with our left going forward. So I'm going to go left, I land on that bent knee, I straighten, I go to the side, I straighten, and I come together and straighten. Then I go back and straighten, side and straighten, together and straighten. Let's do that a couple more times. Forward and straighten, side and straighten, together and straighten, back, straight, side, straight, together, straight, and last time forward, straight, to the right, together and straighten, back, to the left, and together. Couple more tips that will help with the Cuban motion action is going to be not just keeping your toes pointed out, but also imagine that you are dancing in mud. Or as soon as the snow's gone, go outside and dance in the mud. That's going to be a really good way to practice. But we are imagining that we're pushing our foot through the mud, kind of as if I'm squeezing the mud between my toes. And it's going to give me a really good connection to the ground. And connection to the ground is really important here. That's what's going to power us. That's also what's going to give us balance as we do this. So that more advanced timing. Right now, if we just go forward, side, and together, and my hips are moving at the same timing as my knees, it works. That's a good first step, but we want to go beyond that and make it a lot more smooth and a lot more natural. So instead, what we want to do is I'm going to land. Then, before I straighten, my hips are going to start moving. I straighten, and then I go to the side. Move, straighten, come together. Move, straighten. And so, rather than my timing being 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and my hips are just moving on the 1 and the 3 and the 4 like my feet, I'm going to move on the ands. So I'm going to go 1, 2, my 2 is going to be an and here, 3 and 4 and 1, and 3 and 4 and 1, and 3 and 4 and. So turning this way so that you can all try it with me. We're going to try that one more time. Same thing, starting forward on our left. We're going to go 1 and 3 and 4 and 1, and 3 and 4 and 1, and 3 and 4 and and 4 and. All right, so there's a lot more that goes into Cuban motion, but this is going to be enough for today. We might revisit Cuban motion later on, or that might just be something for in-person lessons, whatever the case might be. But that's going to be really good start. And so today's special point is I want you in your video to describe what you're doing to inspire yourself right now. Whether that's dancing, whether that's playing music, anything that is inspiring you at this current moment, just announce that in your video, and that's going to be the special point for this today. So thank you all, and I will see you again tomorrow.